So hi Stavros, lovely to chat to you again. We're chatting about London Fashion Week this time. Feels like ages ago, but also yesterday that we last spoke about Milan Men's. It's been quite an interesting London Fashion Week, I think, and also it feels like there's been this like frenetic, youthful energy because New York was very much young designers making their mark with the absence of big brands, and we've even had a few New York brands trickle into what is London Fashion Week.
Right.
But I think it's been quite an impressive week, especially in comparison to New York. What do you think?
Oh God, I thought that it was full. I mean, it was full of creativity, as you said, great energy, great experience so far. I mean, I know talking about experiences is probably not the right word, to use when you sit in your place and you're watching everything from a screen. But what I mean by experience, and I was thinking about this earlier today, is before when we were going to physical shows and physical presentations, somehow everything was so perfect as it's supposed to be, and the only reason why you were there was purely and clearly to see a collection, to see the merchandising, to see the design, and I'm so sorry for the background noise. I think it's a helicopter going through. So
don't worry.
Anyway, and I was thinking about this, that we'll go like to presentation, we'll go to a show, and then we would experience only the collection for like 5-10 minutes. We would read the press release, and that was it. But right now, I have a feeling that the designers have a bit of they invite us in a bit to more of a personal level, and they show us like a different side of things that probably we'll never experience before. People would be way more reluctant to show us some perhaps parts that right now, because of the period we are in, they find different ways to connect or different things that are important to them to express. And I find this a very beautiful experience to see, even with designers that I know personally, and I didn't know that side of them. And I would see, the film, and I would understand a lot about where they are, how they feel, and what they want to do right now in the future.
Who surprised you then? It sounds like someone.
Oh, surprised. I found it like very interesting when, for example, I was watching Eftihia, like the presentation, because, with Eftihia, and you've been to her presentations before. I mean, I think she's an incredible designer and one of the most promising ones. I'm really, really in love with her collection and what she does with her brand. And is all this like beautiful femininity and take inspiration, of course, from the menswear, but the way that she applies it to her brand. But always when I have been to her presentation so far, and when you see the lookbook and everything, it's all really beautifully put together. And then when you see the video that she showed for the season, it was much more of an insight to her feelings, emotions, thoughts, or something that probably she saw and she got very, very inspired from. So it was very abstract, and it was had a lot of feelings and emotions for me. Yeah. While I was watching it.
I agree. I know she's a favorite of yours, but she is fantastic, and I can't believe that it's her fourth show already, because to me it's so mature and polished, and it's just fantastic. And I completely agree with you. I think her collection is just gorgeous. Those wraparound shirts are just so divine. But it's interesting, I think, what you're saying about the emotion coming through in films, because I absolutely agree. I felt that so much this season. There was a richness in the films. You just kind of felt enveloped with a lot of the designers, particularly Saul Nash and Ahluwalia. I think are two really big standout films for me. Saul Nash, I think, was just gorgeous, and the collection was fantastic. And sometimes I feel like I find it hard to connect with Saul Nash's clothes every now and then, but I feel like this was, I mean, there's always wonderful dance performance, which shows the clothes and motions, which is so important for his designs. But sometimes I feel like I'm kind of, oh, how do I relate to this, and how do I see this in situ? But actually that whole video kind of just ticked all the boxes for me.
I completely agree with you, like on Saul Nash and Ali, of course, but Saul was this incredible. I mean, every time, even, and he's someone that has managed to translate this emotion and feeling and connection, from his when we're able physically to experience that, to what he did through his digital film. He created almost the same emotions, and it's always so beautiful, to see how he puts everything, because as you rightly said, he's coming from a dance background, is all about the movement, is all about the functionality, quite a lot on his clothes. But the overall aesthetic was absolutely on point. And I think he's probably the only, maybe it's a huge statement, that one, but I think it's one of the very, very few designers that know how to use the body language as a perfect point of communication, and expressing everything that a written language or a press release would have. Like it's incredible. Just watching it, you can understand everything. I think he's an incredible designer, definitely someone to watch, and I cannot see how he's going to grow. And
Yeah.
what you said, I mean, again, fantastic presentation today. She won the Queen Elizabeth the second award. I was there, and it was I was there. I was digitally there, and it was an extremely interesting experience, because it was almost a sort of like a very interesting Q&A, and listening to Priya, and the way that she thinks about things is quite incredible. She's a very, very great intellectual, understanding very, very well, the her customer, but also her brand. She's very proud. She's very, she holds her position, and she knows exactly who she is. And she gives you that certainty with everything that she does. And she does incredible things.
Absolutely. She's got a very wise head on her shoulders, and that really translates in the clothes. I'm so pleased for her. I really think it's very well deserved.
Yes, absolutely.
I also think, talking about kind of emotion and managing to imbue the 360 in the times we're in now, Simone Rocha, my absolute fave, I think managed to do that just through a lookbook. Everyone was kind of transported with this huge shift towards a slightly new aesthetic. It was almost junior com noir in aesthetic, and I was just, to have that reaction just from static lookbook images, which was just as powerful as watching Nash's dances. Was really impressive. I thought that was an absolute knockout collection for her, and really exciting move, considering she's doing the H&M collection soon.
Even though I'm not like one of the, typical person, like that I would be obsessed with her collections, I recognize that she's a brilliant designer. She has created a whole school of so many other designers to follow very similar steps in terms of design, to put it politely. And I think she's really, really brilliant. It did resonate a bit with me, noir and com and junior, as you said as well. But I know that she belongs in this world anyway. So yeah, it was beautifully executed, really, really beautiful. And H&M would be very interesting actually to see. I know a lot of people waiting for this one.
It's going to be fisticuffs at dawn.
Yes.
Another one who's kind of on the same vein as Simone is Molly Goddard, who I thought was another standout this season. And I think her menswear, her Fair knits for menswear, has gone bananas. Everyone's posted them on social, like, oh my God, Molly Goddard for men. And she's done menswear before, but I think this collection, the menswear really sang.
I agree. I really love the menswear. Like obviously, I was looking this much closely, but I did love. She had like a bit of like a more kind of a punk aesthetic, and I love the tartan uses, and I loved, as actually the season before, I really did love her accessories again, and I think it's really great. It's a great brand to watch how it evolves, because initially when obviously she came out, she was doing something very, very specific, And, you know, to see how, because there's a lot of times, you know, that criticism that a lot of young designers are getting, and they say, well, you know, you're so good at one thing, but, you know, how your brand is going to evolve in the future. And that creates always, you know, some sort of insecurity. And the designers have always to prove themselves, you know, like, oh no, I can move and evolve my brand in the right direction. And I think she's a great example to show how a brand can actually evolve really well and really smartly. And I think she's giving everything to us in the right proportions, and not too much. And, you know, she takes her steps slowly, introducing all these beautiful new categories to her brand, which I think are super successful and are
Yeah,
going to be
I
successful.
agree. I think that word evolve is quite key. A lot of London designers for me really evolved, took a step
Mm.
up, even in the times we're in now. I think Yuhan Wang for me was amazing. I think she was fantastic. I love her
Yeah,
silhouettes, and I love her introduction of some slightly more tailoring
yeah,
looks. And I also love Pronounce's outerwear as well. I think that's something that we saw in menswear last time we were chatting, is lots of outerwear.
yeah.
Kind of everyone's
Um,
desperate to put on lovely coats. And
yeah.
I think Pronounce really had those by the bucket. They were so beautiful.
Yeah, I think Pronounce is a beautiful, beautiful brand to watch, because I mean again, you know, I think I have said it before. I really love designers and brands that they have a very specific direction, and, you know, they don't get like diluted on, you know, trying to do too many different things and too many different references, you know, in the collection. So they have a very specific visual language, which for me, you know, resonates very, very well. It's a very well made brand. It's a very, very well priced brand. It has a very good audience, you know, and big following. I really love the collection. And I found it like very inspiring the way that it was shown and it was presented. It was something different, which, you know, created a bit of you know, nice curiosity for me, you know, like to watch it and see, you know, what how they want to show themselves this season. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful film. I was really impressed.
You know which one I really like? Bianca Saunders. I
Oh,
thought it was. Do
lovely.
you like it? I I thought it was a great, great. I mean, she's a great designer. I really love Bianca, and I think she's doing like such a lot of incredible things, because she's a great designer. But I also consider her a great creative director, and those two are very sometimes. People can do both, but I think some other times, you know, it's quite difficult to find a great designer, but also a great creative director for the brand. And I think she is a great creative director. She knows exactly what she wants, how she wants to communicate with her brand, and always her presentations, whether they're digital or physical, always gives you something to think of. And I really love her work. I really love, and kudos to Karen's Beans, because she's working with her, and I think she's doing a brilliant job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think you're quite right. Bianca is, again, one of those designers that just has that 360 mind that can looks at everything as a whole picture rather than just a collection. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think on that thread, Art School is also, now that it's just it's Eden Lowe's first solo show, they also has that overarching 360 look, the visuals, the cast, working with different groups of people, London Trans Pride. You know, there's so much that goes into not just the art school show, but the art school community, the art school vision, the art school feeling. I think again, Eden is definitely on the same line as Bianca with having that wonderful 360 vision that really translates.
With Eden, you know, like the difference for me, you know, as a buyer and as a viewer, and someone that I know both of them, you know, since the beginning, the with Eden, you know, you knew how great creative director he is, but this season you understood. For me, it was a showcase of how great designer he is. And it was there, you know, this, at least this season I felt it also in the last season, to be honest. But this season, maybe, you know, because I could see the clothes better, and you know, like the details and everything, you saw the connectivity between a great creative direction, but also a great design going into the clothes. It made me wanted the clothes, and that's something, not rare, but it's a great feeling to have, especially as a buyer, that you see something, you're like, oh God, I want this. Like I wonder how it fits. If I would be trying on. If I was like physically in the showroom, I would putting those pieces on me, and see how they fit. And it was beautiful. Especially, I mean, I love the whole thing, but I love all the slash, like codes, and especially, the second part with all the, I think it was like white boucle kind of like fabric.
Yeah,
That's
super
the problem.
luxurious
That's
boucle.
the problem when you are in digital, like you cannot touch the fabrics, but that white booklet like fabrics, that segment, I so was in love with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, super beautiful. I
Yeah.
think you've been very complimentary of pretty much everyone thus far, but
Yeah. Let's a bit. No, I mean, like,
I'm gonna be a slight negative Nelly for
me.
Burberry.
Oh, we agree. We agree on this one. Oh, go on. I'll tell you after my opinion.
Because I think it was definitely an improvement, and I think it's a step in the right direction for sure. And what I mean by that is Ricardo Tisci loves to do the British isms, and his Burberry is kind of a celebration of all things British. But often to me that comes across as quite a kind of cliched tourist version of Britain rather than actual Britishisms.
Yes.
And this collection was the closest to Britishisms I thought he got. And I loved the skirts, and I thought some of the tailoring and the layering in the menswear was really lovely. But it is still just not quite there. And I don't know why, but I think part of it is the casting are these gorgeous kind of Italian machismo guys. And they just kind of, and I don't know if I'm just lusting after old school Burberry with the kind of indie rocker boys. Maybe that's just me. But I think there is something that translates with the casting. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with you. Like for me, it's a show that created two different set of emotions. The one was that purely when it comes down to clothes, just the clothes, I prefer this one rather than the past, what I have seen so far. Like I thought it was Ricardo in the beginning of Givenchy, like, and of course, you're not going to land to Burberry and say, okay, I'm going to do what I was known for. But you saw all these details that whoever was in love with Ricardo, what he was doing on the first seasons in Givenchy, like you can immediately recognize those details. So in some ways, it felt a bit, at least, more of him, this collection, like whether like we like it or not like it, it's obviously coming down to personal taste and what we basically go for. I would agree with you, that some of the references perhaps could have been executed a bit better. I mean, maybe it's my mistake, but I recognize a few Stefan Cook there, like kind of like direction. But maybe, that was just by accident or not. And but for me, what really didn't create any connection was the way that it was presented. It was, as you said, like something was very, I don't want to say very off, but it wasn't really connecting, like in some ways. And when you are in such a powerful house like Burberry, and I know this is always kind of not an easy target, but in the end, everyone's like, well, what do you want from us? Like if you don't want, the big production, if you don't want, it's just something that felt impersonal, let's say, like it didn't feel connected with what was happening, perhaps. Because I do think that he's a great designer. I think like he really does know how to do something great, but somehow I think they still try to find the right balance between Burberry and between Ricardo as a designer. And a bit, now we saw a bit of Ricardo, but the only thing that I'm so glad about this collection was the size of it. Like it was actually very specific. It wasn't huge, to go on and on and on about.
A very good point. A very good point.
and it was very good for them to come out and say, you know what, that's what we're going to do. Even we are a big house, we're going like to have I think it was like under 30 looks or something, you know. So for them is they're not a lot, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a very good point, actually. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Having something slightly more concise is definitely a better idea.
In that size, what do you think, what did you think about Westwood? Did you manage to see at all? I mean, like, I don't think she did like something maybe I missed that, but I saw the lookbook basically, you know, like, and I'm not sure, you know, if you've seen it, but I did like the lookbook, you know, like I found it very interesting to watch. I mean, you know, you see there are all proper Westwood, you know, like it's not anything groundbreaking or something that you haven't seen before. But I did find the way that the lookbook was shot like quite beautifully done. I think it's done by Ellie Grace Cummings, sorry,
Oh,
if, and
lovely.
it was really beautiful done. Yeah, very
Yeah,
beautiful.
I caught a glimpse of the collection, and I liked what I saw. I think it's her most sustainable collection yet. Everything it's almost like 95% renewed fabrics or sustainably sourced, or which is
Mm,
hugely commendable. But yeah, I think it was one of those collections that's kind of a brilliant whistle stop tour of everything that Westwood does really well: signature shapes, colors, patterns, kind of a riot of fun in the lookbook.
yeah.
But yeah, it translated quite well. I wanted to chat to you just before we go about Fashionista.
Oh yes,
I think
yes.
we've been talking about kind of how visceral films have been and how we've managed to form a connection or not a connection in some cases. And I
Mm,
think Fashionista is one of those ones where I'm really hungry for a physical show again, because there is such an energy at a Fashionista show. And watching it on the video, I was like, oh gosh, I'm missing that tangible connection to Fashionista. And I thought it was a really good roundup of designers. It always is. And Maximilian was the standout for me, as well as Nancy Dejaka. Both of those I think were really brilliant. But yeah, I felt like I was just missing a little bit of a connection to the film, and that could be just me
mm.
getting emotional about not being at shows. But I think with Fashionista, there's such a fun punch to
Yeah.
the collections.
It's community, you know. Fashion is, I mean, and I think it's down to Lulu, you know, Lulu Kennedy. She's doing such a brilliant job for so many years and decades, and it's really the sense of community that she has created with Fashionist. Regardless if you're currently showing or you pass from Fashionist, or you're going to be future belonging to Fashionist, the moment you enter this world as a viewer or as a participant, you belong to a certain community. And that is down to her, I think, you know, the way that she is and her energy and her passion with those. I mean, the selection is so much on point, you know, about those designers. I completely agree with you. I mean, I would add Goom as well, you know, like to Maximilian and Nancy, who I thought both of them were absolutely incredible. But I loved Maximilian. I mean, I love what he does overall, and the whole industry loves what Maximilian does. But I really love the way, you know, he started implementing his own logo onto as a print, you know, like to the clothes. I thought that it was very smart, because before, you know, we saw the silhouettes, we knew that this part is already perfectly executed, and it wouldn't be anything less than that. But now I see this side of development. I'm like, oh, this is very smart, because he can start building a very, very great brand with that. And Nancy was absolutely incredible. I mean, it's she's a great, great designer to watch. It's all about that empowerment and femininity, and you can tell how it can make women happy. Basically, you know, this collection. And Goom is always Goom, and I love what she does. I think it was like her last season actually in Fashionist.
Gosh, it's gone
And
so quickly.
yeah, it's gone so quick, right? And but she's a brilliant designer to watch, and I think she's going to do like great things ahead, for sure, for sure. But you know, soon, maybe next season, we're going to be
Fingers
all
crossed.
together and but you know, like before we go and we close, I want to just say Per Godeson. really
Oh,
love.
gorgeous. Yes. How could I forget?
He's a great designer, like to watch and experience. And I'm not going to go into too much depth, but absolutely is for me one of the most important designers here in London Fashion Week, and he's doing like incredible things. And I think a very young one, a new one that is coming out, George Daniel, is someone actually, for all of us to watch, like in a way where fashion and art meets, and the
Mhm.
way that he presented it, I found it like very, very interesting. He traveled me, and it was a good 3-4 minutes in my head.
That's very telling. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's been a very good London Fashion Week. We've been very complimentary overall. Lots of good designers, it seems. I think everyone just really stepped their game up this season, having
Yes.
known that video content is kind of working in everyone's favor at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, like it wasn't, you won't be able. I mean, it's very, very difficult to say, oh, I didn't like something, because what we're watching is basically a glimpse of people and brands and designers we know for some years. Some of them, we know much better and much longer, and someone much shorter and a bit of a glimpse. But regardless of that, we know that this is just a very small, beautiful part of showing us and something that they stand for and what they are about, the brands, is much, much bigger. So it's very difficult to say, oh, I saw something and I didn't like it as a brand or as a designer. Maybe, the medium or the way they presented something might didn't work for us, but overall I think that's what is brilliant about London Fashion Week is the pool of talents, these incredible minds. There is no other city in the world that you can find so much concentrated here. So regardless of physical Fashion Week or digital Fashion Week, the talent is here for sure.
For sure. Absolutely. I don't think there was anyone I was really disappointed with.
Yeah.
It's a stellar week. That's quite a positive note to end on. Let's leave it there. That's got me on the feels.
Yeah, and yeah, we to the next ones.
Yeah, till the next one. So lovely to chat with you, Stavros. Thanks for taking time.
Always pleasure, and have a lovely, lovely next Fashion Week, I guess.
You too.
Bye bye.